All right, Shona, what is going on? Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm really good. I'm super excited to be here. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm just excited for a good conversation.
Likewise, we had a really good conversation last week on your podcast, so always fun to return the favor. So, for those who don't know, if you could just kick off with a quick blurb on what your business is and what your role in the business is.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a lot of hats. I'll try and be like the nutshell version.
Ah,
Kind of lifelong entrepreneur, outside cat. Been a long time investor, very much buy and hold. Now I'm a full time investor, and let's see, I buy off market fixers. We manage our own rentals. I'm really focused on midterm. I love midterm. I'm kind of obsessed. And then I also coach students on getting started with investing and maximizing their cash flow with my She's Got Assets brand. That's like the nutshell.
I love it. Okay. And just for more context, what does your portfolio look like now? Number of units or types of properties, single family, multifamily, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's so funny. I have to share a little anecdote. So my daughter like knows what doors is. I didn't know what doors were when I started, investing. So I caught her on the phone talking to a friend, like my mom just picked up another door.
Ah, that's
So
hilarious.
we have like 11 doors, most small, like couple duplexes, right, an ADU. I slowly turning them into more midterm. So like seven, I have a mix of long term and midterm, like seven midterm rentals, 30 plus day stays.
Okay, gotcha. Did you start with midterm rentals? I feel like it's a little bit of a different niche, so always curious how people end up there.
Yeah, so it started out like, with long term, right? Because that's what I knew. And then we kind of dabbled in short term, which was fun. It was fun to play host. I had a co host, we had cleaners, but it was just like a headache, the constant turnover, and the market got really saturated. And then COVID kind of hit, and then I got a taste of like longer term stays. I didn't know what I was calling it hybrid because I didn't know that midterm wasn't really as well known. So I kind of stumbled on it. It was an evolution, I would say. And then now I'm like all in just because I could go on for hours. But yeah, kind of an evolution from long term to short term to midterm. I like a
Okay.
mix though, right? Of that different. But yeah, the cash flow is hard to beat.
Okay, cool. I want to talk about midterm operations and properties in a bit. But just before we do, is it you that does acquisitions, management, communication yourself? Do you have help? What does your team look like if you have one?
Yeah, so we're family run. Actually, my kids get dragged along reluctantly. Well, because like to back up, we have software, right? Like we use Buildium, which is, more enterprise. I think it's mostly a long-term platform, but I really like it. I've been really happy with it. I don't use the accounting part of it. And then I have like my leasing software and I have a screening service that I love. So I don't do my own screening anymore, which has been great. But yeah, family run. We have like we do our own communications and all that. And then we do have like a great team of like subs, right? Like my go to pest guy, handyman, all that stuff. So I don't do any of the repairs myself, but I'm pretty hands on with the management side of it.
Gotcha.
With my husband helps out too. Yeah.
So, what would you say like your role in the business is? Your day to day, or what activities do you feel like are the areas you like to focus? You're best at, you're good at, they make money, all that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I gotta think about that. What am I best at? I think marketing. This is gonna sound weird, but like that's my background. So I think marketing and communications is my best asset, I guess I would say, and I use that in like marketing the midterms, and I'm working with students. Yeah, because I mean, I think when we buy real estate, we don't realize we have to manage the asset, and it's a business, and business needs marketing. So I guess that's my secret sauce. I guess is marketing, which is a funny thing to say, right?
No, I love it. Are there any specific tactics or stuff that you feel is like the best use of your time in marketing? Stuff that, no one else on the team but you do and you feel like, all right, that's what I should be doing. It's a good use of my time.
That's a really good question. So this is a couple of years ago, it wouldn't have been caught dead, like saying this. And here's the thing, for a little context, I used to be very, private about being a landlord. I thought we'd be judged. It's such a loaded issue, right? So I was very much like, well, if someone finds out we have rentals, they'll think we're just shithead landlords or whatever. Right? Just like,
Yeah.
so I think the best use of my time is just speaking and putting out content, talking about what I'm doing. Like I have a podcast, and I think that's strangely passionate. And I think my background's in marketing and content marketing, so I love like education and talking real estate and just helping inspire people. I think that is the best use of my time.
100%. So, do you do anything as far as like um, time tracking, time blocking, segmenting days of the week to do certain tasks? Like, how do you make sure that everything that you want to get done in the business is getting done, with pulls on your time?
That's a really good, it's an evolution. I live by my calendar, so I find if I need to do something, even if it's like make a call, like call the pest company, it has to go in my calendars. So I love time blocking. I'm always looking for tools and whatnot. I mean, I use Buildium. I'm always kind of looking for tools. I'm very much a techie, but I'd say my calendar is where I live in. But it's always a work in progress. But calendar is, yeah, digital calendar,
Is
the
there anything right
basics.
now that you're looking at in your business of like areas that you want to improve or areas that you think you guys are doing really well that you want to just keep doing more of?
Yeah, I think okay. So more of more acquisitions, right? My focus is on off-market leads with creative financing, right? Like I love talking to sellers, specifically sometimes landlords that are tired of being landlords, kind of want an exit. More of that, more marketing, more consistently. And also, I've realized that, and this is going to sound dumb, but being a coach and just being in the business, sales is a big part of what we do. And I've been doing a lot of work on like upping my sales game and just realizing that is a skill that I do it somewhat intuitively, right? But you need to be you need to understand sales in this business, I think. So that's been a recent kind of light bulb moment for me.
100%. How do you currently get leads for sales, and do you think that'll be changing in 2025 or staying the same?
So for realist for acquisition, I've tried everything, right? Like when I first went full time, I did like, oh, you need to do, I did door knocking once. I don't like cold calling, SMS, all the things, right? And then I was like, it felt spammy. And like one of my coach said, that has to feel right in the head and the heart. And I think any kind of marketing works, but you have to feel like it's authentic. If you don't like it, you're just not going to, if it makes your skin crawl, like sending out that SMS campaign and just like, breath. So what I love for marketing, this is direct mail, right? Very specifically handwritten letters with a specific template that's like, have you considered selling? It's not like hitting you in the face with like blinking letters and like neon signs. It's not going after distress so much. So it's a very specific type of letter with like a real stamp, and the envelope is tucked and it's invitation size, that marketing. And then I have a website, a carrot website, which is for inbound leads. So I really like when people call me versus me harassing them. So I feel like I just need to send out more letters because I get calls, hey, I never call anyone back, but your letter was different, right? And that's the best thing. And then it's just a conversation and seeing how I can help them. And so I think I have my market. I just need to be more consistent, frankly, because it's work, right? I mean, but the thing about the letters is like, they have staying power. I've been to seller meetings where like I'm at the table in their living room and they have like their little, manila folder and there's my letters sitting there. So that's a
100%.
cool feeling, right? Yeah. So just I guess more consistent, but yeah.
Cool. And then what about on the coaching side? How do you get leads now, and what have you seen
Yeah.
in
So
2025?
after multiple courses, I kind of have built a tribe on Facebook, right? I'm on all the channels. It's called She's Got Assets. So I run ads to that, and then I kind of do a lot of content on the weekly content live streams, and then that's kind of my funnel. And then I use Go High Level, which was quite a learning curve, but that's my CRM. So that's kind
Yeah,
of my lead funnel. Yeah.
there is definitely a learning curve with Go High Level. So we've had a lot of real estate investors and coaches on the show. Like a very common model, I'd say, is coaches will generate cash from coaching, and then they'll use that and pour it back into the real estate investing, and they'll kind of pair that with cash flow from the real estate. Is that similar to the model that you do, or is there any maybe difference in how you're financing properties, or am I completely off on maybe how that works for you?
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. I will say, as far as financing goes, like there's so many ways to buy property. Like my favorite way, hands down, is to involve the seller in the financing, right? So there's no bank involved, so I'm actually making them payments, and I love that because like you're keeping it in the community. You're actually they're getting actual passive income like mailbox money, right? You can negotiate terms that work for you and them, and it's really a win-win. So that's my favorite. And that does involve money, but sometimes there's just creative ways to structure it that you don't get with a bank, right? That's my favorite way to buy is installment plan or owner financing, whatever you want to call it.
I definitely want to talk about that a little bit later on. When you think about, I guess, like the transition of your business and kind of how things have flowed, are you like a goal setter, or have things kind of just happened organically and you didn't necessarily expect to be exactly where you are, but you just ended up here? Always interesting to get different answers.
Yeah, I think that's a really good. I should be more of a goal setter. I'm more kind of like go follow intuition. But when I first went into real estate, like, or full time, I did a course. Facebook algorithm got me. I did this course and I learned all the like wholesaling and flipping and bandit signs and all the things. Right? I had a business partner and I was like, hey, at some point we should like do something educational and start a podcast. So I think in the back of my mind, I was like very passionate about teaching, but I don't think I ever would have thought I'd be here. It's kind of a little uncomfortable sometimes to put yourself out there as like this expert, because I'm still learning, but I'm really passionate about, I feel like real estate, we say, like, we throw around these terms like wholesaling and flipping, and one, it's like not that easy. It's a lot of work and you're not actually building anything when you're doing those things. It's just a job. So no, I never thought I'd be here, and I'm very much an introvert. So it's a weird place to be sometimes. It's a little uncomfortable.
Totally. Are you thinking about 2025, like, in the sense of goals? Like, if you look back at this conversation 11 months from now, you'll, feel happy or disappointed if X happens? Or is it more just, let's keep doing what we're doing, where we land, as long as, we just, kind of keep doing the right activities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So recently I had this like silly kind of epiphany. Like, I feel like I'm building equity in this brand and this community, and I'm starting to see the fruits of it. So I want to keep doing that. I want to keep growing my community and inspiring people. So I hopefully, I've had a bigger impact on people, been able to coach students and, acquire more properties and work with students. Because I'm doing this. I was kind of a calling, which is a weird thing to say, but it really was. I wasn't like, let me go be a coach. Like, 'cause it's not easy either, right? It's definitely a lot of work. So yeah, I hope that I would continue building my audience and, help educate people and just spread the message of the things I believe in real estate. Because there's so many tools in this business. There's so many people doing different strategies, and there's a lot of shiny objects, right? But
Yeah, for sure. On the real estate front, I'd love to change gears and talk about that a little bit. Can you talk about some of your favorite creative financing deals that you've done? I know you have one that you mentioned that was unbelievable, but that could be the one you talk about, or any others that come to mind.
yeah. Okay, I have a couple. I guess the latest one was I bought a duplex. It was off market. It was a duplex. I negotiated zero down. I did do a lot in rehab, right? So there was skin in the game in the back that I had to do a pretty major rehab. But yeah, I can unpack that one, like how I found the deal, how the conversation went, if that would be.
Yeah, if you want to walk through that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I send out. I wish I had an example. I just wanted to have one, but I send out direct mail, right? It's very specific. It's like an invitation size envelope or red pen. I have a letter writer, right? And it's very much like very friendly, and it's like, who doesn't open like a handwritten letter, right? So I sent out one of those, and I got a call, and it was like the usual, I never call anyone back, but your letter felt different, right? And then so then I think we met at the property, and it happened to be an eviction, right? So that one side was empty, the other side was an eviction. So we walked to the property, and then the way I was taught, and this is kind of like very much relationship based, is usually I meet someone in their living room in their home and just have a conversation, like, what are their goals? Where are they looking to get to? Like, usually a lot of times people are just, they've owned the property a long time. They're like, sometimes they're like upward 70s, 80s, and they've just done this and they just want out, right? But they did this because they like the passive income, and they they still had this really valuable asset. So it was that kind of we had a conversation. I really got to understand what their goals were. and down payment wasn't like a huge nut for them. They definitely, I mean, they were very extremely savvy. I hope they don't listen to this. It's a little like really really savvy, and I think they kind of saw themselves in me back when they were starting. And I do have a portfolio, so I kind of talked about that, and I just kind of listened and looked what they were. We talked about price, and were open to like installment or owner carry, right, which was always helpful. And there's tax benefits to that too. So I kind of had a couple meetings and kind of just took in the information. I never proposed anything the first meeting because you have to build trust and a relationship, right? I think sometimes people hear, oh, it's free and clear, and they just jump on that. Would you carry a note? And it's just kind of like, well, I don't know you from anyone. You're kind of like, dating a little bit, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So I think we had one or two meetings, and then I came back and I was like, okay, the way I was taught, it's a proposal. Like, here's the proposal. Like, we decided on the price, and then, down payment wasn't a big issue, and there needed quite a bit of rehab. So I was like, how about, no down payment, but I'm going to rehab the property. So, it's improving. And if anything were to happen, right. So, and that was fine with them. And I also negotiated deferral of the interest payments for a couple months because it was a pretty major rehab, a lot of clean out. So I was able to negotiate that. And with off market, as soon as you get under contract, you're going to escrow, right? So from there, it all goes through escrow. So it was very much relationship based. And this closing went really smoothly, and I took over the property and the guy that had lived there left all his stuff. It was just one of those things, just like cleaning out and rehabbing and then getting it rented. And then it was a studio and a 1-bedroom. Is this too much? Like, if it's too much detail.
No, it's great.
So then we got in there, right? And I am a little bit crazy. I like to be in and out like in a month. I have my team is in there, and we're just like, everyone's on top of each other. And we just get done really. So it was a fairly major rehab, but nothing like structural, right? But just a lot of upgrades like electrical and adding a microwave and adding a fan in the bathroom, and just it was also a stucco building, had a flat roof, and it had lath and plaster, all those fun things, right? So like a lot of cleanup. And I'm very much, if I get a property, I want to list it like as soon as I can to test the market. So I put it out there as a studio and a 1-bedroom. And I didn't like the quality of leads I was getting. So I was like, well, what if I have this thing, I call it my A/B test. So I'll put a property up as a long-term, and then I will digitally stage it. Digital staging is come so far. Like you can barely even tell. And then I put it up, I test the market. And then I was like, well, what if I midterm it? So I did it with one side, and I got a lead. I was at a real estate conference, and they wanted to move in like the next day. So I came home, raided our kitchen, got it furnished like really quickly. We still don't have forks in our house because I stole all our silverware for this property. But I basically 2x the income on it, right? And then the other side, I did the same thing, and I got a lead right away, and I scrambled to furnish it in a couple of days. So I really maximized the income. And the other thing is, the way I structure the deal is it's income or interest only and or more payments, so I can make it cash flow. I can make principal payments, but I just have to, the note is for, interest only. So that gives you a lot of flexibility in deal structuring, especially in like an expensive market. So
100%.
Yeah.
Super interesting. I mean, it's a whole world that I think most people aren't familiar with at all. What strategy or tactic do you think is maybe the best entry point for people who have never done creative financing on a real estate deal, or any type of business, I guess, for that matter? A lot of these apply to different businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think creative financing is such an umbrella term. Like there's sub 2 and there's installment plans. Like to me, the purest form of creative financing is when a property is free and clear and there's no bank involved, so you're not dealing with assuming a loan or anything. So I think like learning about it and understanding it, and I also think just mindset, believing it's possible, right? Because I think it sounds like this unicorn thing. Like who would do that? And I think understand how to negotiate and talk to people, not just jumping all over it. So do your research, understand it, and like it's out there. But I think it's also comes down to marketing, right? Like a lot of times if it's an on-market thing and you haven't 2 agents involved. I think I'm hearing more about creative on-market, but there's often it's the game of telephone. Someone's like, well, would you do this? And then it's just like all these people involved versus sitting in the living room and negotiating a deal. There's just something beautiful about that. And the closing is like very little paperwork, right? Because I mean, it's all buttoned up and you have a servicing company, but I would say just learn about it and do the right kind of marketing and just mindset. Because I think we often think it's not possible. I didn't think it was possible. I'm like, who would do that? But it's a win-win when we think about it. It's like the seller is getting passive income. It's secured to the asset. I mean, if anything happens, they're going to foreclose, right? So it's, otherwise, if they sell the house, right, get a pile of cash. They have all this capital gains exposure. Sometimes they don't want a pile of cash for different reasons, right? Versus getting actual passive income like mailbox money. If it's the right fit, it's not always the right fit. And I think sometimes I think they don't understand what the seller's needs are, right? And they just propose it and there's no relationship. And it's just like, that's why it gets tossed out, or it's like, it's a lot of trust, right? And you have to be like, I think have some experience too. Just saying that if you've like never owned a property and aren't responding, it's a trust thing, I think, right?
Yeah, 100%. I guess just when you think about all the creative financing strategies, is there one that you think might be easier for people who have never done it before for them to start with?
God, that's a good. I mean, here's what I would say. If I get asked a lot, like, oh, I want to buy an investment property. If they don't even own their own home, I think that's where you start. Like, use conventional buy your own home house hack, right?
Yeah.
And I think all these strategies aren't complex. I mean, I think it's pretty simple. You just have to understand either like do the research or, I mean, I learned it through having coaches and mentorship. And I don't think it made sense till I had someone actually walk me through it and I had the support of like a coach, because it's simple, but it's not easy. So I do think if you're serious, finding someone that can coach you, you don't need that, but that to me is like, I don't think I'd understand it the way I do now if I hadn't invested in it, in coaching and mentorship. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Because I listened to Bigger Pockets, I read all the books. It didn't sink in the way it did when I actually like had someone to be like, okay, here's how the mechanics work, right? Here's how you solve the seller. So.
Is there a type of specific creative financing that you specialize in, either sub two or seller financing or rent to own? Like, where do you like to specifically, target or like attempt creative financing?
I like seller financing because it's just this beautiful kind of blank slate, right? And it really serves the seller in a lot of ways, and it serves me. And so you're looking. So this is the way I was taught. Like you're not just looking for a house; you're looking for financing that comes with the house, right? And that's the beautiful thing about seller financing is you get the financing with the property if it's the right fit. So that to me is when I think creative, that's my favorite because there's no banks involved, right? And it stays in the community, and it's just, yeah, they're getting a note payment every month, and it's a great thing. That's
What do
my
you think is the
favorite.
most, I guess, challenging part tactically about doing this type of financing? Is it contracts? Is it the sellers need a lot of persuading and selling and they don't understand what it is? Is it, finding sellers that are even like would consider it, or finding off market deals? What do you find is the biggest challenge for like doing more of these creative financing deals?
I think it comes down to marketing, right? Because it's a certain avatar. And as investors, we're taught like put up bandit signs, right? Or send out the postcards that are like screaming at you, like sell fast, as is, no repairs. And when you think about it, someone like a tired landlord, they're not like necessarily distressed in the way that, they're not necessarily, I'm just going to keep talking. They're not distressed in the way that they're not distressed in the typical way, like they're not going through foreclosure or divorce or behind on tax liens, right? And so I think when we send out the messaging that's like, hey, sell for all cash, well, if they sell for all cash, they're often have big capital gains issues, right? So they may not want to. And it's also kind of just like in their face, like they're not distressed. They don't need to sell. They're kind of thinking about it. So I think their marketing is really important. That's the first step. That's like the entryway into the right kind of market. And it's a letter, right? I mean, I learned it from a course and I've modified, but I think marketing, and I think also like the other thing is really understanding the seller and not just jumping on, like, I don't even bring a contract to a meeting. I like want to know the seller and what they're looking for. And is it even a good fit? Because I think oftentimes people just throw it out there very cavalierly and haven't built any rapport, understand what is the seller. Are they looking to 1031? Do they need the cash for a certain thing? I think that's really important. It's kind of like goes back to sales, right? What are the pain points? Like if we don't know that, how can we solve their problem, or how can we serve them? I get most of the calls. I'm like, yeah, it's probably you should list it. You want full retail. There's really nothing creative, and I think just being really transparent about how we work is important. I think people just jump jump to the, it's kind of like jumping for asking for marriage on a first date or something, or proposing or something like that, right?
Yeah, 100%. When you think about 2025, where do you think you'll put more of your time? Into the real estate business, into the coaching business, into like acquisitions of the real estate business, improving your properties? Like when you think about where your pie of time is going to be spent on 25, how do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'd like to do more acquisitions just because I feel like there is a window of opportunity with interest rates being high, and I think people are more open to creative. So I feel like there's opportunity now that who knows where the winds are going to blow, right? But I feel like it's always, yeah. So I think acquisition and, coaching too, but definitely like there's a lot of opportunity. Even with on market, I think if something's been sitting like what 90 days, right? People are often open to sub two and things like that. So I think there's just opportunity now that we need to grab. So that's where I want to focus for sure.
Let's say you see a deal on market, 90 days, but maybe the numbers work. I guess could you just walk through like your workflow of, you're scrolling Zillow or you're scrolling any of the MLS sites, you see a deal that looks somewhat interesting, you don't know the numbers. Like what's your kind of checklist of activity that you do to see if it's worth pursuing, but then if it is, what do you do after that to like actually pursue it?
So I'll be honest, I don't look, I just direct marketing. I usually get calls and I don't do that, but I know that I
Okay.
mean, typically, right, there is, if something's been sitting for 90 days, there's a lot of motivation. So I think it's really just pick up the phone, call the agent, see where they're at. Are they open to an offer? Right. I think that's all. I think we get like really hung up and like we have to have this perfect script or template. And I really, it's just a conversation. I think on market is more nuanced because the agent wants to make sure they're getting paid and that you're qualified and
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's just a conversation and being really upfront about stuff and not pretending to be someone you're not. But I mean, I love it when if I send out letters, I will get a couple calls a week. And like,
Mm.
I met a seller yesterday. Off market is open to sub two. I'm meeting another seller on Wednesday, and he's got a lot of doors. I'm bringing some partners in. Right? It's just like, it's just a conversation, and then obviously that can lead to a proposal and a contract. But I think we're really just taught to like get someone under contract if it's whatever it is, and I don't like that's really aggressive to me. And I think you need to understand what the best fit for the seller is,
Mm.
which may or may not be on or off market. So really understanding the seller, I think, and what their goals are. And they often will say like, we want all this money, and then you really kind of unpack, well, what do you really need? What would you do with the money? Where are you looking to get to? How can we get you there? Right? It's that sales, like, you're here, how can we get you here? How can we serve you?
Is like understanding the finance a goal on the first call, like to see what their I guess appetite is for creative financing, or is the first call or first touch really just about like condition of the property, going out and seeing it, like validating them as a normal legitimate person? Like what's your first call like goal?
So I think it depends on your strategy. Like if you're trying to wholesale, right, you're really trying to get to the nuts and bolts. With the way I was taught with creative, it's like you're getting the basics of it, right? Like a little, and then you're trying to get a living room meeting. You're trying to like sit
Mm.
down and have an actual conversation, turn off your phone, just be very present. So my goal is to like understand a little bit about what they're looking for. I mean, if I can even help them, and then it's like, hey, I'm like old fashioned. Can we have an in-person meeting? And that's the way I was taught, and it's kind of a slow dance, right? It's not for everyone. But if the goal is to build a relationship and have them, be involved in the financing, we need to approach it like a relationship, right? So that's the way I was taught and the way I like. So you have a meeting, you kind of get to know them, and then you come back and you noodle on the numbers and then a follow-up meeting and make a proposal. And usually I'll do a couple different options. Like here's conventional and here's like another
Mm.
option. I can often pay you more if I'm buying on terms because I can make the numbers work, right? So that's the beauty of kind of a direct to seller relationship.
Yep. How do you handle if someone on the first call is just like, what's the price? You know?
Yeah, I mean that comes up a lot, and sometimes they're just shopping around. So I'll usually say something. Well, like I don't know enough about the property. That's a great question. I need to do some research or something. So I do. Oftentimes they're calling, and sometimes I'm like, I need to look up the address, and I have to. I usually just come up with something. Well, I need to do a little research, and I'll get back to you. But it's like there's so much nuance to that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Gotcha. And then if like is then the plan to follow up with them? Like when you're going to do that research and then follow up with them, or do you look at that like, this person's not really a lead that will probably ever amount to anything?
I usually try and get as much information, and sometimes it's a long call. And I've noticed landlords, they like to talk, right? Usually it can be like a half hour conversation. And it kind of winds around between like, do they have grandkids and how's life and
Ah,
how long have they had the property? And then typically it's like, hey, I'd love to do some research and I have a few questions. I'm old fashioned. Can we meet up? And they're usually fine. Or sometimes I get an email and then it's just like an in-person meeting. But the goal is to like set up a meeting, if there's any, and it's just good practice, right? I think the more meetings we have, if not everything's going to be a deal, that we have to get comfortable with those. I've realized it's just a conversation, and you kind of go from there. Unless someone's just like, I want a price, and it's not a good fit, that's fine. But if you can have a meeting, you can. Sometimes it takes a while to discover what someone's really looking. They might not tell you exactly all the stuff you need to know to deal structure something that really fits them, right?
what's your take on like owners handling the phone calls versus virtual assistants or people on their teams, or I don't know, like some other way than you do it?
Yeah, I think it all works. I think it depends on your angle. If you're looking to like get wholesale deals or flips, then it's a volume game, right? Like it's purely volume. Yeah, get a VA, just dial for dollar, like right. But to me, I'm looking for buy and hold, and I'm looking for the relationship. So I think that first call, if it's someone that's just kind of going through a rote script, it's going to be kind of a turnoff. So if your goal is off market and you're doing a really like targeted campaign of letters, right? Or like I have a website, I'll get inbound calls. They're like very different avatars. Like I think it's better if you take the call because it's a really targeted lead, and if they have kind of a funky experience, right, then it might be kind of off-putting. So I think it just depends on your strategy. I know that's a vague answer, right?
What's your goal with this? I mean, is your plan to try to grow it, bigger and have a team and more letters and more deals, or is it, you are happy with what you're doing and you just want to like keep doing what you're doing and just keep getting better at it?
Yeah, I think the bar always moves, right? So you reach a point. So I enjoy this. I do want to scale a little bit, but I think I want to keep it fairly, a little bit bigger, but nothing. I'm not looking to be like enterprise level, right? Because I do enjoy it, and I feel like the bigger you get, the less kind of involvement you have. So a little bit bigger, hopefully a little bit more of an admin team than maybe someone helping with like turnovers and stuff. But I don't want to get huge. That's not my goal, but a small but mighty kind of portfolio, right? I'd like to be work optional. Like financial freedom. Like I like work, but that would be kind of the goal is like, work is optional.
Do you look at it like you need to hit a number and then, okay, I can like, cut back to 10 hours a week or whatever? Or is it, I want to only do deals that I enjoy working with certain people on? Like, how do you know when work optional will be
Right.
what you're ready to do?
I guess it's partly financial, right? Hitting that number of like, passive or evergreen income. Passive is a little bit not really accurate. So I think it's partly financial, and then, yeah, having the flexibility of like time freedom. So yeah, and I think, look, I don't know, I think I'll always work a little bit, but like having that just more time freedom and kind of like, I don't have to be in the weeds as much, more focusing more, I guess, on like kind of the content and thought leadership versus, taking the calls for rentals and stuff like that.
100%. Is there anything, I guess, that's exciting for you at the moment, or anything that you've been working on at the moment, or just learning about that, I don't know, want to share with the audience, or talk about anything top of mind just before we wind down?
Yeah, I think, in this toolbox of real estate, there's a lot of strategies, there's a lot of shiny objects, but to me, the one that's like, it's getting more on the map is midterm, right? Because you can really 2 to 3x your cash flow. You're helping out families often have been displaced, and we think about, I think we've been trained as investors, we need so many doors and like to meet those goals, that with the right kinds of midterm rentals, we can make really good cash flow, and we're helping people. And so we don't need that crazy portfolio. So to me, that's like, it has to make sense. People talk about storage and RV parks, and like, to me, midterms are kind of like where I'm really focused on. And I think if you haven't heard of them, they're a great model because Airbnb is just, well, I mean, the turn, I know you've got systems, but it's like high maintenance guests and it's constant reviews.
Totally,
So
100%.
I love midterm. I just think it's a sweet spot for me as far as cash flow and as far as just maximizing like the exit on a property if it's the right kind of property.
For your midterms, do most of your guests come from Airbnb or Verbo or direct or other places?
It's kind of a mix. Like you kind of have to be omnipresent. Like I, do a lot of networking relationships with temporary housing companies, but they will look in their own databases. They'll look on Airbnb, right? It's like a kind of all over the place, but you kind of want to be in all the right places so that where they're looking, they find you, right? Which comes down to the marketing piece of it. But they will look in the major places, right? And then they'll look in you'll get an email and be like, hey, we found you in our database, right? So it's just kind of a mix. And then you build relationships, and they're like, hey, they know I'm in Portland, and like we've got a family, and if I can't help them, I try and position myself as being a resource kind of for them for the area that I'm in.
So is it insurance bookings, Airbnb, Verbo, Furnish Finder? Like, is there an order that you get most of your midterm bookings from, and
Yeah.
like any others that I maybe missed?
So, I mean, yeah, I would say the top are like, right, the top tier is Airbnb, Verbo, their interface is Furnish Finder, Zillow, right, are the top, and then being in their databases. Like if you Google like ALE solutions or temporary housing provider, because the thing about it is like we talk about insurance leads, but they're not in the housing business, right? So they're partnering with temporary housing, and there's a ton of databases. But I'd say be in all of those, and then list yourself in their databases, and there's a lot more than that, but that's like bare bones, right? And then build the relationships and be easy to work with and be reasonable when they reach out. Don't like jack your prices up without kind of any logic behind it, right? So
Did
yeah.
you say you're getting midterm rental leads from Zillow?
Yeah.
Is there any
Yeah.
nuance or any detail to that other than just listing the property as a rental on Zillow?
Yeah, I mean, check the furnishing box, right? And you'll get the people are like, was that a typo? I'm like, no.
Huh.
People don't realize it's furnished. So I would say make sure it's furnished, check the box, and then you're kind of in your listing, you're optimizing, you're saying, hey, we work with displaced families and homeowners, and just be very clear about who you work with, because a lot of times these temporary housing companies reach out and they get some grumpy landlord on the line, and they're like, why would we do a 2-month lease? Like they just don't understand it. So just let people know that you work with insurance and displaced families and all of that. And that's, there's a little more to it than that, but good pictures. Just kind of make sure you're listening. You can use ChatGPT, right? And that's a great tool. It does make it kind of flowery, but just dial it back a little bit. Yeah.
100%. On midterm rentals, is there you might have mentioned it, but are you, I guess if they come from Furnish Finder, like they would be direct, but with the other platforms, do you ever try to move them over to direct or from a direct booking? Like if you had to, percentage wise of your midterm rentals, what percentage would you say are direct versus non-direct, and any advice on how you get more direct from like the marketing strategies you have?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't, yeah, so definitely I love direct, right, all the reasons, right? We're saving the guest money, we're getting more money, we're not at the mercy of the platforms. So I would say probably 75 to 85% is direct, right? That's kind of ideal. So the ways, and we have to be mindful, like the platforms have all the eyeballs, right? So what you can do is you kind of optimize it. You say, our company X, you kind of sprinkle your company name in the listing, and then don't never put your number or say like contact me, but a lot of people are savvy enough to kind of Google you, right? So have a presence. The other tip I would say is have a Google My Business profile so you can get found. I would say that's almost more important than having a website, because if you don't highly optimize your website, you won't get found. But Google My Business will serve up your business name, right? So
Huh. So would you
yeah.
say if you're getting 60 or 70% direct bookings, where would you say most of those come from?
A lot of times I've built relationships, right? So it's a direct email, like, hey, I have this family, and they'll be like, I have a family, and they'll listen, and you say like what you have. So a lot of
An
it's
insurance provider will reach out.
Well, like it's so temporary
or
housing, right?
temporary
Because
housing?
insure, yeah,
Got
like
it.
ALE, Sedgwick, those kind of companies, they'll reach out because we're just kind of have a relationship, and I send out weekly emails too. I always like kind of marketing, so I'm top of mind. And I'd say
Mm,
build your database, right? As you get leads, or if you're on Furnish Finder, look on unmatched leads, and you can tell it's like, hey, this is X name from X company, and we're looking for a family. Just get that email and start building your database, right? Like it's out there. So
got
you
it.
can
So
also
that's number
use
one.
LinkedIn. What was that?
Oh no, sorry, I was saying. So that's number. That sounds like the number one way, and then are the others Furnish Finder inbound or Google? Like what are maybe the specific ways that like make up that 60 or 70%? That's just an
Y-
amazing number.
yeah, I mean, so it's networking, right? Being like easy to work with, right? Building relationships, right? Then being in the right places, and direct like Furnish Finder, like there's kind of a turf war going on with midterms, right? There's no like one place to list, and it's getting competitive, but like Furnish Finder, once you get the lead, is the direct booking, right? Zillow is direct. And I would also say I turn off the applications on Zillow. I want to kind of, make sure it's a good fit. So someone's not spending the money on an application that's not a good fit. So, that I consider a direct booking because as soon as I get their contact info, then we're right off to the races.
Mm.
So, and just keep a list. I forgot the question, right? Direct booking. Yeah. So
Of
I don't
like
know.
where like the main channels they come from. So it sounds like replacement agencies, then Furnish Finder, Zillow, um, and you said databases. Any others, or is that
Databases.
maybe the full picture?
Yeah, Verbo, Airbnb, right? And in my course, I have the whole list. But I would also say when you get a lead, like they'll say, I'm X name at X company. I will call that company and be like, hey, I'm looking for Susie Joe. And I'll find them, right? Just pick up the phone, just call the company. That's how
Gotcha.
I get them off. And they're like generally very happy because it's saving them a lot of money on booking
Mm,
fees.
that's
So I will
interesting.
just pick up the phone and I usually will get transferred around and someone knows someone. Just
I
like,
love
hey,
it.
this is a little random. I'm looking for this person at and they usually someone knows. I usually can get that 90%. I do that a lot. And it's just a matter of being really nice and being like, hey, I have a favor I'm trying to find. And usually they're very happy because they're a direct booking just saves everyone money, right? And so it's just easier for them versus going through the platform. So just pick up the phone. I mean,
That's
I
pick
know
up the
it's
phone to just call them direct, or you're saying you'll call within one of the agencies.
so they'll usually say this is X name at X agency, and I know the agencies. I'm like, oh, it says agency, so I will just Google their number, call them, and be like, hey, I'm a housing provider in Portland, Oregon. Somebody reached out, I'd love to do, I'm just curious. Sometimes it's faster to do direct booking. Do you know what department they're in? And I'll get through to their voicemail, and then I'll email them and I'll call them.
Mm,
So
got it. That
yeah.
follow up sounds so important. I love it. A lot of different topics and a lot of things that I feel like you're doing that other people aren't doing. It sounds like, creative financing, which a lot of people are not doing, and then the actual strategy itself as far as like monetizing as a midterm rental. Again, that's not that popular. So it sounds like you've carved out a really cool niche and that's what you help people with. So can you talk a little bit about your community and how you help people who want to do this?
Yeah, thank you. So, I struggled for a long time with like what to call it, and I finally like last year came up with she's got assets, which is a little cheeky. It kind
I love it.
of speaks to like my passion for holding assets. So I have a Facebook community where I do a ton of like free content, live streams, and then I have a couple programs. So the REI playbook. I started out with the MTR playbook. It was really about how to like set up your property, how to optimize it, how to list it, how to self manage. Because and everyone has mixed feelings, but I feel like no one cares about your property like you do. And if you have the right tools in place, like you keep so much more money in your pocket. I think it's well worth learning it. So that's the MTR playbook. And then a lot of times people didn't have a property and they were kind of like, well, I love midterm, but they don't have a property. So that's why I came up with the REI playbook, which is really about how to market for off market leads and deal structure and what I just talked about, right? Finding those people that are maybe open to owner finance, owner carry, as well as building a website. I call it my hybrid, right? Because you get the inbound leads for the more motivated sellers looking at Google, and then you can talking to tired landlords in a different way. It's a very different messaging. Yeah, so I that's what I do. I'm very much one-on-one. I really like working with students, right? You have all the modules and all the online stuff, but I'm still small enough where I can work one-on-one with students. So I'm really
That's
passionate
awesome.
about that.
How many
Yeah.
how many students do you have now?
It's kind of rolling. I think I'm about like 60 or 70
Oh, that's
overall, kind
awesome.
of in the, yeah, over time.
That's great. Okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, it's a nice number that you could still be like hands on with them, but that they can also have a community aspect as well. Um,
Yeah.
cool, Shauna. What's the best way for people to get in touch, chat with you, or follow along with what you're doing? We'll link it all in the show notes.
Awesome. I guess, yeah, I'm kind of everywhere. So she's got assets, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I think those are the big ones, right? Just, yeah, look me up. She's got assets.com. You can find me there. But yeah, just reach out. I put out a lot of content. I have a podcast. She's got assets. You can subscribe to that. Have really fun
Awesome.
conversations. Jonathan, yours is coming out soon. I love
Can't
real
wait.
estate and conversations. So
All
yeah.
right, awesome. Well, Shauna, really appreciate it. I feel like we covered a lot of topics here, but things that will definitely be interesting to people and can help people, and now they can get in touch. So thank you again for coming on, and can't wait to see what 2025 holds for you. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks
All
for the
right.
opportunity. This was fun. Appreciate it.
Love it. See you later.
Thanks.